Eating healthy in the 21st century seems to have gotten as complicated as doing quantum mechanics. No one knows what to eat anymore, and everyone is jumping around on all these different diets. They go on vegan diets, juice detox, carnivore diet, primal diet, liver king diet, you name it. All these diets, no one knows what to do, and I'm here to help you with this. Today we're going to do a tier list on many different diets that you may have heard of. We have diets from all places of the spectrum, and I'm gonna rank these diets and I'm gonna tell you why they work and why they don't work, and what makes them bad and what makes them good. Just for the record, I know many people are probably gonna disagree with me on this, or they're gonna tell me that I don't understand anything about nutrition, or I don't understand anything about their specific diet, and that's fine. If you disagree with me, you can write in the comments why I'm wrong or why I don't know anything, and then we can talk about it down there. But this is just my understanding, and I have gained this understanding from my own personal experience, from all the knowledge that I've gathered researching this stuff for years, and it is based upon all the impacts that it has had on the people I've helped inside of my health program. So without further ado, let's just get straight into the tier list. So as you can see by the right side of the screen, we have many different diets we're going to get through. So I'm just going to go straight into this so we can get through them as quickly as possible. So the first diet we're going to start with is standard veganism. This is a terrible diet for many reasons. It is filled with processed foods, filled with seed oils, highly inflammatory, and it's just overall a terrible diet, and it's also void of any animal nutrition or any bioavailable nutrition. So you're going to be malnourished and you're going to be consuming a lot of inflammatory things in this diet. And that's why it's a terrible diet, and you see it on the people who are on this diet.
I drink 2 glasses of soy milk every day, and I eat a block of tofu maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Paul, where is your scientific evidence? This makes no sense. Like, Paul, where is the research showing soy consumption has feminizing effects in men? Soy does not have any feminizing effects in men. If soy is feminizing, then show me the fucking evidence, Paul.
Many times it's young people, so you won't actually notice how detrimental this diet is in the first place, because they're young, they're vibrant, they're full of hormones, and everything in their body sort of works at its optimal rate, so they can pretty much eat anything. And this goes for some of the other diets we're going to talk about later as well. So that's why you won't really see this deterioration in people on a standard vegan diet immediately if they are still young or if they still have a lot of nutrition stored up in their body. But just know that if you stay on this diet for a long time, you're going to be malnourished and you're going to be highly inflamed and you're just not going to have a good time. So standard veganism goes in the F tier. Next up, we have the Bodybuilder Diet, which is an interesting one. You know, it's this diet of eating only chicken breast, rice, and broccoli every single day, almost 6 times a day for some people. And it's meant to build as much muscle as possible and keep you as lean as possible. I've been on it myself in previous times in my life, and it really does work. You build muscle, but also, in my experience at least, you don't really feel good in this diet. And there's a variety of reasons for why this is a terrible diet, in my opinion. You are depriving yourself of a lot of fat, which is actually the exact thing you want when you are trying to build muscle on all of this, because things like saturated fat from meat, dairy, and eggs is a precursor to testosterone in your body. So if you get these in high quantities, you'll actually be basically giving your body natural steroids, you could say. It's going to produce more testosterone, you're going to look more lean and muscular. So this diet is kind of a misunderstanding of nutrition. And it's not the worst diet, obviously, because you are removing a lot of the processed stuff and the terrible stuff. So it is pretty clean. Another issue with it is that these bodybuilders, they eat huge amounts of food. And most of the time, because they eat so much, they don't care about the quality of the food. So they get conventional chicken, conventional broccoli, and they get conventional rice and all of this, and it's filled with toxins, it's filled with heavy metals, and since they eat them in so high amounts, they're going to really stress their organs, their livers, and this could potentially ruin their health on a long-term basis. So that's why the bodybuilder diet is not really an ideal diet. You're depriving yourself of fat, you're consuming a bunch of chemicals, heavy metals, but also you are cutting out a lot of the crap. So I will put this in the D tier. Next up, we have the standard American diet. The standard American diet is obviously bad for many different reasons. All these processed foods, all these seed oils, all these chemicals from the processed foods, everything is just terrible. It's as bad as the standard vegan diet. They are kind of opposites in the way that if you are going on a standard vegan diet, you are going to starve yourself to death. And if you go on the standard American diet, you're gonna eat yourself to death. Standard American diet obviously goes to the F tier as well. Okay, next up is the whole food plant-based diet. So this is again a vegan diet. You're going to be depriving yourself of a lot of the animal nutrition that you need, all the essential nutrition that we can't get from plants, like carnitine, like saturated fat, protein, bioavailable protein. There's a lot of things. Basically the list is endless, and you're going to be malnourished in the long term. But it is still better than the standard vegan diet in the sense that you cut out a lot of the processed crap, and the plant foods you eat on a whole food plant-based diet is not necessarily the evil parts of it. There are some bad aspects to it, like you are going to eat a lot of beans and lentils for protein, and first of all, those are not going to turn into protein in your body like a steak would. It's very, very inefficient, and that's why you're going to be deficient in protein. And secondly, those foods are filled with anti-nutrients and things like phytic acid, protease inhibitors, all these different anti-nutrients, which is going to mess up your gut. It's going to give you leaky gut when you eat them in these high amounts. Your body can tolerate a bit of beans. You can eat a bit of beans, a bit of lentils, no problem. But when you're on a whole food plant-based diet, you're going to be bombarding your body with this, and they're going to release these, you can call them natural pesticides inside your body, and they're just going to cause all kinds of discomfort. And again, you're going to be malnourished on this diet. So this is a terrible diet, but it is better than the standard vegan and standard American. And that's also why you can initially feel pretty good on a whole food plant-based diet, because it's sort of an elimination diet. So if you're used to standard American diet and you switch to whole food plant-based, you're actually going to feel amazing in the short term. But in the long term, you're going to be malnourished, you're going to feel bad. And again, we can see this on the people who go on this diet. They start to, their hair gets thin, their skin looks weird, they get malnourished, very thin, and they just look weak overall. So the whole food plant-based diet goes in the E tier. Okay, so let's get into some of the more interesting diets. I have picked the medieval peasant diet here because I thought that was kind of funny. There was kind of this stereotype that the medieval peasants just ate grain, and that's why they were so malnourished and all of this. But I did some research on it, and it's actually not true. Most medieval peasants had their own animals that they could get milk from. And keep in mind, this was before pasteurization or anything, so this was raw milk filled with enzymes, probiotics, and a lot of nutrients. And they also ate meat from now and then when they slaughtered an animal, and they did eat grain, but they mixed it and made porridge with like raw milk and butters and all this. So actually the medieval peasant diet was kind of a good diet in my opinion. Also, this was before the Industrial Revolution. There were no chemicals, everything was organic, natural, very high quality. So the medieval peasant diet was funnily enough a very good diet, much better than what 90% of people eat today. So the medieval peasant diet I'm gonna put in the B tier. Next up, let's talk about the Peat diet. If you don't know who Peat is, he's essentially this fitness guru. I believe he's a doctor of some sort. I'm not completely sure. To be honest, I'm not that educated in the Peat diet, but I do know the fundamentals of it. It's animal nutrition, specifically milk, raw milk, and fruit juices, and consuming a lot of sugar in the form of fruit. He even recommends cane sugar and things like Mexican Coke because it is made from natural cane sugar. And I think there's a lot of good things about the Peat diet. I think he gets a lot of things right when it comes to animal nutrition, fat, and also the fact that you don't have to be afraid of sugar. Sugar is not evil, as we have been taught this whole time. There is a time and a place for sugar, especially in the sense when it's from fruit, and these fruit juices is a good source of getting the sugar into your body. It's going to convert in a completely different way than it will from a donut or some kind of processed foods. It's a different type of sugar. It's a sugar that your body is naturally equipped to handle, and that's basically a whole topic in and of itself. So the Peat diet is very clean. It has good foods in there. Maybe it's a bit too reliant on the energy from sugar, and should be more reliant on healthy fats. I'm not completely sure about the ins and outs of the diet and what Peat himself said, so I'm gonna be not as knowledgeable on this diet, and I'm gonna put it in the B tier with the medieval peasant diet, because as far as I know, Peat didn't really talk a lot about food quality and going organic. I could be wrong. I'm gonna research this when I release this video and see if he actually talked about that stuff. But if he didn't, I'm just gonna put this in the B tier because he didn't really emphasize the importance of quality of organic nutrition and all this. Next up, we have the college diet. Let's just get this one out of the way. I know most of you know that this is a terrible diet. It's as bad as the standard vegan and standard American diet, obviously. So it goes in the F tier. But I just wanted to include this because I think it's a great highlighter of how nutrition actually works and why there are so many diets out there that can really confuse people, because some people have good experiences with veganism, some people have good experiences with carnivore and all this stuff. So everyone has good experiences. So what is actually the true diet? And that's why I wanted to include the college diet, because you can have positive experiences on a college diet even. And when I say college diet, I mean living off of coffee, ramen noodles, pizza, beer, these terrible things for your body. But since you are very young, you are in your prime years, especially if you are a male, you're producing all this testosterone that just keeps your body naturally healthy. So eating this way, you're just not really gonna feel the negative effects as much as if you were older. And that's why you can sustain yourself off this diet, you can still feel pretty good. But if you were on a much better diet, you would feel 10 times as good. And this is really a bad way to ruin your potential in all aspects of life. If you're in college and you're eating this way, you can get away with it because you are young, healthy, vibrant, but you are gonna just destroy your potential short term and long term. So this is a terrible diet. Obviously it goes in the F tier, as I said. And yeah. Next up, we have the GAPS diet. If you don't know what the GAPS diet is, it essentially stands for Gut and Psychology Syndrome, if I'm not mistaken. And it originated from this doctor called Dr. Natasha Campbell, who I think she's from Russia or Ukraine or somewhere around there. And I haven't really gone in depth with the GAPS diet, but I do know Natasha Campbell very well. I know her values and I know the sort of ins and outs of the GAPS diet. You want to rely heavily on animal nutrition. She really emphasizes the organic part of this. Actually, she even says organic is not good enough. You have to go to farms that you know, and you have to have your own farm and produce your own food, so you are completely sure about the quality of your foods. And the reason for this, in her words, is that you want the right microbes inside of your stomach, because your stomach and your gut microbiome is connected to your psychology, in the sense that it's kind of your second brain, and all the microbes in there actually impact upon your brain. So if you have things like autism or ADHD or these psychological diseases or problems or whatever we would call it, then you can actually change it by changing your gut microbiome. And that's what the GAPS diet is specifically meant for. But also it's just all in all a great diet, because she puts so much emphasis on the quality animal nutrition and going out to farms and getting as high quality food as possible. We have so many things in our environment nowadays that are just destroying the food quality, filling it with chemicals and sterilizing it and all this. But she emphasizes raw milk and animal nutrition and bone broth, all this good stuff. So this is one of the best diets in my opinion. I can't really find many faults with it when I look at it. And I think Dr. Natasha Campbell just gets a lot of things right with this diet. And she talks about probiotics, and as some of you may know, I'm a big proponent of kefir. It's something we work a lot with in the Divine Health program. I see it as sort of a cornerstone of how I help people. And she's very much into those kinds of food as well. So we are very similar in our values in what works and what we know works. So I'm gonna put the GAPS diet in the S tier. Then we have the Carnivore Diet, which has become very popular in recent years due to many different people, like Sean Baker is a big proponent of it. And there are many different versions of the Carnivore Diet, so it's kind of hard to just judge it as a single entity. In this sense, I'm just going to judge it by the fact that you are going to be eating whole food carnivore items, so meat and milk and eggs and butter and this, and that you're not really concerned about the quality, but that the animal nutrition is actually what matters. And this is what we see from Sean Baker, for example. Like, he goes to even fast food places like McDonald's and he just orders 18 burger patties and he just eats it because he's convinced that it's just about the animal nutrition. There is no organic, all this, it doesn't really matter. I don't think he says it doesn't matter, but he says it's not important anyway. So that's kind of the Carnivore Diet. The Carnivore Diet is a good diet in the sense that whole food plant-based diet is a good diet. It's like an elimination diet. You eliminate all these factors that could be contributing to issues within your body, like gluten and all these different things, and then you sort of get a clean slate and you start feeling real good, but you don't consume any carbs or anything. And that is actually an issue long term. I would say you run into like issues with carbs. You're gonna produce a lot of stress in your body if you don't get enough fat, and it's just a very, very hard diet to get right long term. Short term it's very decent, but long term it's not a diet to follow, and that's why I'm gonna put it in the C tier. It's better than the bodybuilder diet, for example. Actually, it would be a good diet for a bodybuilder to be on if you included some kind of carbs, but it just runs short in the sense that it's very narrow-minded and you can only eat meat, and meat is the only thing humans are supposed to eat. Humans can eat a lot of things, and we actually get a lot of benefit from introducing many different things. It helps our gut microbiome, it helps every process in our body. So the carnivore diet is good. You get a lot of nutrients from the meat and from the animal products, but you're just also excluding a lot of beneficial things, and you're not really that concerned with quality always. So that's why I'm gonna put the carnivore diet in the C tier. Okay, I'm just gonna quickly get a few other of these sort of fat diets away, and we have keto. Keto is where you don't eat any carbs or a very, very small amount of carbs, so your body sort of goes into ketosis where it starts burning fat as fuel. And that is a real thing, and it's actually a real beneficial things that you can achieve with even on a normal diet by doing things like fasting, intermittent fasting and all this. And it does have its benefits and all this. And the keto diet is not in itself evil, but there are some aspects to it that makes it quite concerning, like you are not getting enough protein. Most people on this diet are definitely not eating enough of the good fat to make a keto diet worth it. They are instead eating a lot of like nut butters and plant fats, and that's terrible if you're just only giving your body those kinds of things for fuel. So the keto diet can be very bad. It can be done better if you're just like almost like a carnivore keto diet. Then it's actually quite similar to the carnivore diet, but on the keto diet you also have a little more room for getting some other foods in, some vegetables and some plant foods. So I see the keto diet as a decent thing, but with a lot of problems like with the carnivore diet, so I'm gonna have to put it in the C tier. Then we have the Paleo diet, another one of these kind of fat diets, but it is a pretty decent diet in the sense that you're trying to eat as your ancestors did, which is what we should try to achieve, because our body is essentially an ancient piece of hardware that has sort of evolved to have certain needs, and those needs came from the lives of our ancestors. So the paleo diet is a decent diet when it comes to the whole concept of it, but the things that you do eat, oftentimes it wasn't even stuff our ancestors had access to, like broccoli and pumpkin and squash and all these. These are recent foods that we got from genetically modifying certain plants over a long period of time. And I'm not saying those foods are bad, I'm just saying the diet doesn't really understand what it's trying to do, but it does put a lot of importance on animal nutrition, on getting good quality animal nutrition and just eating these clean whole food items, and that's all good. I believe it also tries to exclude a lot of like modern carb rich foods like grains, but I'm not sure, maybe grains is actually included in the paleo diet. So the paleo diet, again, it's sort of one of these diets, not too good, not too terrible, but they don't really place a lot of importance on food quality again. So I would group it with diets such as the carnivore diet and the keto diet in the C tier. So then we have the Mediterranean diet, which was one of these special diets that was sort of put in place by studying people around the Mediterranean, where they lived very long and lived healthy lives and they were happy and all of this. And people sort of thought, if we can eat the same things as them, maybe we can live as long, maybe we can be as happy and healthy as them. And so the Mediterranean diet was put in place. It proposes you eat a lot of legumes like beans and lentils, and a lot of cruciferous vegetables and a lot of vegetables in general. It's basically a whole food plant-based diet, but then you have things like fish added and olive oils and these things, and pasta, I think, all these like grain carbohydrate sources. And the diet in and of itself is not necessarily evil, but it places importance on the wrong things. It thinks that the beans and lentils is what these people actually ate. And if you study the people of these areas, what they ate oftentimes were not even close to being beans and lentils. They actually had a high amount of animal nutrition and cheese and butter and all of this to really sustain them. And that's what this diet fails to take into account, in my opinion. It sort of says that these things should be avoided as much as possible, and they're detrimental to our heart and to our health, and our health in general. So the Mediterranean diet is decent. It's better than the whole food plant-based diet, because you do get some fish in, a little bit of meat maybe even is fine, and this olive oil is a decent fat source. I'm gonna put it in the D tier because it's basically a glorified whole food plant-based diet. Okay, then let's talk about the Fruitarian diet, because that is another terrible diet. All you really have to do is look at the people who are on this diet and look how deteriorating they are. I don't think I even have to explain why you should not only just be eating fruit and think that you can thrive off just eating fruit. You're gonna be malnourished, you're going to be lacking in pretty much all essential nutrients, and you're just gonna be addicted to sugar, and that's gonna be your life, and you're gonna look like this guy. So the Fruitarian Diet, terrible diet, F-tier diet, and don't ever try this. I personally have friends who were on this diet in the past, and many of them almost died from being on it, and I know that's a story that's very common in these fruitarian circles. There are even these parents who feed their children this diet, and they're on this diet when they're nursing their children and when they were pregnant with their children, and these children actually, they die because they're so malnourished. So this is a terrible thing, and it just shouldn't be a thing at all, and a very unnatural diet for humans to be on. So Fruitarian Diet, obviously F tier. Then we have the Alkaline Diet, which is sort of a similar diet, but maybe not as bad as the Fruitarian Diet. It is again sort of a whole food plant-based diet. It was popularized by this guy called Dr. Sebai, who is a famous dietary guru, you could say, who actually had a lot of interesting ideas. And I don't know if he himself actually came up with this alkaline diet or if it was just sort of his students who kind of put it together. But he did propose a lot of the things that are in the alkaline diet, sort of the idea that you can eat certain foods to achieve a certain type of pH in your blood that is going to be alkaline, and that's going to help your body overall be more vibrant and healthy. And that's an interesting idea, an idea I agree with. You do want an alkaline environment in your body because that's where disease is going to be suppressed and not manifest itself. It manifests itself in the acidic environment. So the idea behind the diet is good, but the way it tries to achieve this thing is just not the right way in my opinion. It's basically eating a lot of specific plant-based food like avocados and certain berries, and yeah, I can't remember all the things, but basically a lot of vegetables, plants and fruits. And then you're gonna achieve this thing where your body is going to go into an alkaline state, supposedly. But in my opinion, that's not how it works. Your body has a certain pH, and it is not necessarily determined by the alkalinity of the food you eat. Because think about it, all food goes into your stomach acid, which is a very acidic environment. So everything is sort of acidified, and then the alkalinity of our blood and of our body in general is not determined by those foods. They are determined by the nutrition we get out of those foods. So meat might be acidic in its nature, very acidic food, but when you digest it and the nutrients are delivered through your blood, through all of your body, then you're actually going to achieve alkalinity in your body, because those nutrients help keep everything in check, helps keep disease away and all this stuff. And that's what's going to help keep your body alkaline. It's not eating certain fruits and vegetables that are already alkaline. It's not how it works. So this is a terrible diet in my opinion, especially a whole food plant-based diet. So I'm gonna put it in the E tier. Then we have the food pyramid, and I assume most people know about the food pyramid. It was sort of proposed in the 1980s when this guy called Ansel Keys came with this crazy hypothesis that saturated fat and animal products and butter and eggs and all this is terrible for your health and gives you heart attacks and makes your heart very unhealthy, and that we should eat polyunsaturated fats instead, such as seed oils and yeah, all these very inflammatory foods. And this food pyramid basically suggests that you eat a lot of the foods at the bottom, like grains and bread and pasta, a lot of vegetables, a small amount of like dairy products and eggs, and a very, very small amount of meat. And actually, if you flip this pyramid on its head, it's going to start looking much more what you would want to be eating.
You can't be serious. That would put butter and fat at the top. Flip the damn food pyramid!
Nutrition is stabilizing.
It's not exactly right, but it's better than the food pyramid in itself. You don't want to rely on those many grains. You don't want to rely on that high amount of vegetables. It's not necessary for your health, and it's going to cause more problems than good things. There's definitely not enough animal nutrition in the diets they're proposing in the food pyramid, and it can be interpreted so many different ways. And if you think about it, this is what our governments are telling us that we should be eating, in most places at least. And this is sort of a big misunderstanding in nutrition, that we think we can just tell people, eat these foods and you're going to be healthy, because nutrition today is not about eating certain foods. It's not about eating meat. It's not about eating grains. It's about caring for the quality of your food you eat. That's more important than basically the food you eat at this point, because so much of our meat is from conventional farms where they're just being injected with hormones and it's filled with all this crap in the meat. If you eat that, it's not going to support your health. But if you eat grass-fed beef, it's going to support your health big time. So this food pyramid fails completely to take into account the quality aspect, which is what really matters in this day and age. So the food pyramid basically is very misguided when it comes to what really matters in terms of nutrition, in my opinion. And that's why I'm going to put it in the D tier with the bodybuilder and the Mediterranean diet, because it's better than just eating a plant-based and becoming malnourished, because you do get some animal protein and stuff in this diet, but there's just no quality aspect. There's no introduction of a high amount of saturated fat and all this. So food pyramid goes to the D tier. Okay, so we have 5 diets left. Let's go with the Mongol Warrior Diet, which is another one of these historical diets. And it's an interesting diet that I just wanted to throw in there, because many people argue that this is what made the Mongol warriors superior, that they were able to survive actually eating mostly dairy and meat from the herds that they traveled with during all the steppes of Mongolia, and they were just eating basically yogurt and butter and cheese from their animals that they milked, and they ate meat every now and then, probably ate raw meat, or they maybe cooked it over fire, I don't know. But basically, people say this is what kind of attributed to them being so superior, that they could sort of have their food with them. They weren't reliant on grains. They actually just ate the highly nutrient-dense milk, raw milk and yogurt products from these animals, and they ate the high quality protein from the meat of the animals, and that's what really gave them this superior strength against a lot of other soldiers who were on these grain-based sort of peasant food diets. So the Mongol Warrior Diet is just an interesting one. We can't really fully know what they ate, in my opinion, but they certainly had a big emphasis on very nutrient-dense foods such as raw milk and yogurt and all these very good things. So I'm gonna put the Mongol diet above the carnivore diets and our modern diets, because keep in mind, these people just ate high quality nutrition. It was organic. They really had no choice to consume chemicals. So it's gonna go in the B tier. Then we have the Liver King diet. So I assume you know about the Liver King. He basically eats a lot of liver, obviously, and a lot of organs. He eats bone marrow, he eats testicles, and he eats all these highly nutrient organs of the animal. And that is a good thing, and I know he also prioritizes quality, and that's a good thing. But this guy is just going extreme with it. He's eating it every day, which is very unnatural. We would not be eating liver every day, for example. We would not be eating these things in nature. And that's basically his whole shtick, is just eating like we did, like our ancestors did. And I guess he does do that, but he does it like on steroids, no pun intended, because I know he was also on steroids. But he just takes the ancestral diet to like steroid proportions and eats these highly nutrient-dense foods every single day. And you would think that's a good thing, right? The more nutrients, the better. But nutrition is about balance. And if you're just bombarding your body with high amounts of retinol, which is vitamin A from liver, your body is going to run into nutritional imbalances long term, and he's going to stress his organs, stress his kidneys, stress his own liver, ironically. And yeah, he's probably going to run into all sorts of issues if he keeps eating this way every day. It would be much more beneficial for him if you would just include the liver and the bone marrow and the testicles on a weekly or even monthly basis, and then eat more fleshy food like muscle meat. And that would be more natural as well, because think about it, as our ancestors were in nature, they would kill an animal, maybe a large animal like a mammoth or some kind of deer, and they would eat the organs because they were so sacred and filled with nutrients, and they would really revitalize them. But then they would just start eating all the flesh, which could take many days. So you wouldn't be eating these organs every day. And in my opinion, this guy has just sort of misunderstood the ancestral part of what makes an ancestral diet good. So I think I'm gonna put the Liver King probably in, I'm not gonna put him in B tier, because I think Peat and the medieval peasant diet is like just better straight out, and it doesn't exclude as many things, and it's not as extreme when it comes to all these highly nutrient dense products. So I'm gonna put it with the carnivore, the keto, the paleo, and the C tier. Okay, then we have the Primal Diet. So if you don't know what the Primal Diet is, it's a diet that was sort of originated from this guy called Adonis Wonderplanets. He is basically a very, very interesting person. I believe he's a genius. He has so many good ideas and very revolutionary in his thoughts and concepts, very much before his time. He was very much into the raw aspect of foods. Obviously, that's what the raw primal diet is about. You eat raw meat, you eat raw dairy. Everything should be as raw as possible. And I believe that's a good thing, especially when it comes to dairy. The raw dairy is just so much more powerful than the milk we buy in the supermarket, which is pasteurized, homogenized, and all of this. It's basically a completely different food, but the raw milk is just such a powerful food. And then the raw meat, I mean, there is certain aspects to eating raw meat that is definitely beneficial. You are going to be stressing your digestive enzymes much less. You're going to incorporate the raw meat much easier into your body. But again, I don't think you have to be this dogmatic about eating raw meat. There are beneficial aspects even to eating cooked meat. Like, think about it again from our ancestors' point of view. If you are going to kill an animal, there's going to be a lot of meat on that animal that you just can't physically chew. It's too hard and tough. And that's why some of our ancestors came up with the idea at some point, we should try to cook this meat. We should try to put it in some water, put it in some kind of stone pot, and then just boil it and see what happens. And the meat would start to break up, the fat would start to get dissolved into the water, and all the collagen, all the nutrients, and they would drink that, and they would eat the meat, which has become really tender from basically boiling it in the pot. And they would get a lot more nutrition out of the animal than they would if they would just eat the parts that could be eaten by being chewed raw, and then just throw the rest out. So there are certain aspects in our evolution and in the way our bodies work that actually, where it's helpful for us to get nutrition from cooked foods and from these things. So I don't necessarily agree with all the aspects of the primal diet, but I do think it is a very good diet. I also think another problem with it is that it's very dogmatic when it comes to things like salt and fiber. I don't believe those things are as bad as these diets lay out. And the people who follow it basically just take Adonis's words as the holy words, basically. If he said something, that's the way it is, just because he said it, which I don't really like, because a lot of the things he said can actually be shut down, in my opinion, when it comes to the whole salt experiments he did and why that was bad. Those are very flawed, in my opinion. And again, that's no hate on Adonis, because as I said, he was revolutionary and he was a great person and came up with so many great things. But he's not perfect. He's like everyone else. He's like me and he's like you. He's going to have flaws in the way he does things. And I believe the people who follow him don't really see him as this person. They see him as this sort of Jesus character that is just perfect. So just to summarize the primal diet, I believe it's a very good diet. You get a lot of animal nutrition, you get some raw animal nutrition, and you are getting a lot of animal fat, and you are basically excluding a lot of chemicals and all the bad stuff as well. That's a big part of the diet. So eating as natural as possible, but then there are these dogmatic aspects to it that I believe you can run into problems in the long term. I believe you're also consuming way too much animal nutrition even. So it's a hard one for me to place, because in many ways I don't believe it's actually even better than the medieval peasant diet, funnily, and the Peat diet. But then again, I also find it better than the Keto and the Paleo and the Liver King diets. So I'm gonna put it on the brink between the C tier and the B tier, and that's where I'm gonna put the primal diet. Okay, so down to the last two, we have the vegetarian diet. This is also sort of a plant-based diet, but then you can include things like eggs and dairy. And if you make those things high quality eggs and some raw high quality dairy, then you're actually going to introduce very much good nutrition into this, and you can actually make that a decent diet, in my opinion. But again, there are a lot of things you could do wrong with the vegetarian diet. You could not prioritize the quality, you could not eat as much milk and eggs as you need, and then you're basically on a whole food plant-based diet with a little bit of eggs and meat. So I'm going to put that together with the food pyramid, the Mediterranean diet, and the bodybuilder diet. But it could go into C tier as well if you really do the right things. It could even go all the way up to the B tier, in my opinion, if you just really know what to prioritize on this diet and you just get the right animal foods in and supplement them with the right plant foods. You could make a good diet. But as I said, there are a lot of pitfalls to it, so really this depends on how you do it. It could go from the D tier to the B tier, but I'm just gonna put it in the C tier then, I guess. Okay, and then we're left with the last diet, which you might have seen is the divine diet. So what is this? This is obviously the diet that I teach and preach in my program, and the method that I think is most beneficial for your health and for everyone's health even. And why is this? This is because this is not a specific diet. This is an optimized approach that can help you achieve your best diet. It goes into your ancestral DNA. It goes into what would be the best for your individual situation. What are you lacking in? What do you need? And it goes into all these factors that I just don't see in any of these other diets. It goes into things such as detox. It goes into things like EMF. It goes into all these different lifestyle practices. So this is just a diet that obviously I think is going to be the most beneficial. I'm going to put that together with the gaps. I'm going to put it even above the gaps because it is so individualized and it can really just sort of make you thrive. But then again, it also has the fundamentals down that you can just straight up implement and achieve benefits right away. So if you want to try that diet, obviously you can join my health program and try it out for yourself. I do add new videos to this health program all the time. Recently, I just added 2 new videos. The first one goes into what you need to do if you want to optimize your appearance and have better hair, have better skin, have better teeth. I also just added a video about how you achieve clean drinking water. Again, a thing that I don't see any other diet mentioned nowadays. What do we do to get clean drinking water? Our drinking water today is terrible. It's filled with so many things. It's not vitalized. It's filled with pharmaceuticals. It's filled with drugs and toxins. And in this program, you have a whole module dedicated to how you get clean drinking water and how that can really support your body in all its processes. As you might know, we are 70 to 90% water, so it is another very important aspect of diet that I don't see a lot of people taking into consideration. So obviously the Divine Diet is my choice for the best possible diet. And yeah, as I said, you can try it out and you can see all the stuff that's in there. We have diet aspects, we have lifestyle aspects, we have things like modern radiation aspects, detox aspect, very important aspect in the modern world. So that's why I believe this diet is what can optimize your health, make you thrive in the highest possible way and achieve your divine potential. So thanks for watching this video. I know this was not the most thorough list I could have done. I could have went way more in depth with the specific diets, but I basically just wanted this as like a overall thing of how I view nutrition. So I hope this was able to give you a good idea of the things that I put an importance of. Hit me up in the comments below and tell me what you think. If you have any questions and whatever, just hit me up below. And other than that, just stay healthy.